Good evening, America. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, you know this always, from the nation's capital, where day two of the shutdown of the government has continued with some significant savings for the American public. Billions of dollars of Biden-era green energy and transportation grants shut down today by the Trump administration, and many employees, thousands of them, in fact, are expecting to get furlough notices tomorrow, terminating them, not putting them on leave because of the shutdown where they'll get their pay back when it reopens, but literally ending their jobs. That's just a little bit of what's going on. We got a little sense of what the Senate's thinking today. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said that if the vote tomorrow fails, we're going to try one more time, they will likely not be staying around during the weekend to try to get more government funding votes. In other words, the government will stay shut down as we carry into a second week. Mike Johnson has already explained that he will not be reconvening the House until next week either. So this is Democrats' last chance to get aboard. That doesn't mean the Trump administration won't still be working. And as we reported to you yesterday, they're trying to make the shutdown work in the favor by cutting of everyone's American spending, by cutting spending. They announced today all different ways that they'll be doing that. The president also addressed a very important issue today, and that is what's going on with the military action against the drug cartels that are trying to bring those poisons into our country and kill our young people. We've seen several boats blown out of the water by the U.S. military. President Trump today saying we're in an armed conflict with the cartels. While that was going on, several members of Congress and the Senate were behind closed doors interviewing the Pentagon's chief counsel to understand the rationale behind that. But a lot has been going on there. Meanwhile, as we stand here, the Democrats are trying to explain just what they're doing and whether or why Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has changed his tune from just a few months ago when it comes to shutdowns. Look at this side here.
Chuck Schumer did the right thing in the spring and led the Senate to a clean CR. What we've got here is the House they have passed a clean CR. The Republicans have the votes in the Senate, and he will not allow his members to come across. And what's changed since then is it's his poll numbers. So the president, Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, they're not negotiating with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They're negotiating with Representative Ocasio-Cortez.
Chuck Schumer was AOC'd. I think that's how we look at it. Amanda, it's a really remarkable moment. You had a great story this morning about Republicans winning the messaging war early on in this. Yeah. You can see that they've got a clear narrative and they can point to the proof. And when Democrats were like, well, we're not paying for illegal aliens. Well, yeah, you are. Yeah. Different from any shutdown I can remember in recent history.
Yeah, I when I was writing that, I was thinking about how it's kind of like a legislative, it's typically a legislative he said, she said type game. But this time around, it's all Republicans said, because Republicans are winning the messaging war on this for sure. But I have three things that I want to get to. Please. First, a little update on President Trump's D.C. crime crackdown after they've expanded that program to places like Memphis, Tennessee in recent days. And since then, the federal takeover here in D.C. Since it began in August, ICE has made 12,000 arrests. That's coming from a New York Times report. And the Times also recorded that ICE had only made 85 arrests in the nation's capital for the previous months of this year. So that means a lot of criminals have been taken off of this city's streets. And Assistant Homeland Security Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement that immigration officials in the nation's capital had arrested gang members, kidnappers, drug traffickers, and other violent thugs. And that leads me to some more news dealing with border security. As John just told you, the president has told the Department of War to ramp up, quote, armed conflict against drug cartels. That, according to a memo from the Trump administration, who also went on to say that the United States has now reached a critical point where we must use force in self-defense and defense of others against the ongoing attacks by these designated terrorist organizations. So it doesn't look like the president's policies on the drug cartels are going to be easing anytime soon. But one more story, Americans' trust in the media has hit a 50-year low. I can't say that's exactly shocking, but that headline comes from a new Gallup survey that says only 28% of respondents had some type of trust in the media, with another 36% saying they didn't have much trust and 34% saying they had no trust at all. So compare that to the 1970s, when 70% of the public had a great deal or fair amount of trust in the media. John, it's not too surprising, but it's a pretty stern indictment for our industry. I hate it.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Not a surprise. That's why RAV and Just the News and other places keep going, because people look at that.
I got to make a correction.
Please.
Did I say 12,000 arrests?
Yeah, I think you meant 1,200, right? Yeah.
When I read that, I was thinking, holy mackerel, that's more than 10 city blocks. But yeah, 1,200 is still wonderful.
It is, yeah. And I think 80 the whole rest of the year, so you can just see how fast. And these are all legal aliens. That's why ICE is arresting. It's an amazing number. All right. Joining us now to kick off our show today, Montana Congressman Troy Downing. He's been at the forefront of so many of these big issues that are playing themselves out in Washington. Congressman, great to have you on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me. I've just been listening to your comments there, and there's just so much to unpack here. But thank you for having me on here.
There is news. The velocity of news in the Trump administration is remarkable. I want to start with the shutdown, because I think when Democrats are done, they're going to have a lot of remorse that they let this shutdown occur. Billions of dollars of grants canceled today. There's a belief that tomorrow furlough notices will go out to thousands of workers. The government's going to get shrunk just because Democrats closed it down.
Yeah, and that's the key point there, is the Democrats shut this down. They've taken politics. This is completely a political move, not a policy move, to shut the government down. They wanted to cram policy into just an agreement to keep the government open for 7 weeks so that we could go through regular order and actually do the business of the government. But rather than that, they threw politics in there to completely circumvent this and throw the entire nation into disarray. And now the entire country is paying the consequences of this, with folks not getting paid, uncertainty, folks worried about getting NFIP flood plans together while they're trying to sell property that they're developing. And this just has so many tendrils of hurting so many Americans. And the funny thing is that the Democrats, they've completely overplayed their hand here. They've tried to add all this policy in there and try to convince the American people that the Republicans are unwilling to discuss policy, which can't be farther from the truth. This is just not the right place to put permanent policy in without having it go through the normal process of debating it in committee and passing it on the floor or passing it in the Senate. It's just completely ridiculous. This is on Schumer's hands. It's clearly he's worried about the far left. He's worried about his reelection, and he's making decisions harming the American people because of politics, not because of policy.
Yeah. We've seen so many 80s and 90s remakes of movies lately. I think that Rick Moranis should come out with Honey, I Shrunk the Government, because that's exactly what's happening. And President Trump and Russ Vought, folks like that are champing at the bit to make this happen. But what do you make of the fact that typically in every shutdown in the past, you've got Republican and Democrat messaging wars, and you've got plenty of folks on the left who are willing to toe the line for Democrats and say, yeah, this is why, yeah, this is true. But when it comes to this messaging about Democrats trying to protect health care for illegal immigrants, I'm going to be honest, I don't see a ton of folks on the left side who are coming to their defense, because you guys have done a really great job of putting it out there black and white.
Well, it's really simple. This is an extension of policy that they voted for in the past, just to get us, some time to finish the work of the government. And they're throwing in these crazy things, everything but the kitchen sink, of using taxpayer dollars, your dollars, to pay for medical issues for illegal immigrants. And they're trying to say that that's not it. Just read the bill. Don't listen to me. Don't listen. Just read what they're trying to put in their CR. They're trying to take your taxpayer dollars and misspend them on things that we shouldn't be spending them on, and that should be part of a discussion in regular order in committee, not as a last-ditch effort to hold the American people hostage and keep the government from operating as it should.
Yeah, really important. So I want to talk about, if the Trump administration carries out the plan that is laid out for the American public, we'll shrink down, we'll cancel grants. When Congress comes back, do you codify that to make sure it doesn't rear its head in a future lawsuit or in a future administration? Do you get, if the Trump makes some hard decisions, does Congress back them up and make them permanent?
Well, here's the thing: is leadership, the rank and file. We're all in conversation with the administration on how this affects us. Everybody knows that we're spending ourselves into oblivion. Everybody knows we need to make cuts. I think that the Democrats, in some way, have played into the president's hand in giving him tools to accelerate some of this. And I think it's really important that we cut programs that are not in the interest of the nation, programs that we don't support, make sure that we're cutting that fat. And I think that it's up to Congress, it's up to the House and the Senate, making sure that we codify these parts that are important and continue moving forward. I think one of the things that you hear a lot is making sure that we're very thoughtful about, where we do these cuts, so that it really is cutting the fat and not having to, restructure. And I think that the administration is going to be thoughtful about that. I think the vote's going to be thoughtful about that. And I think that this Congress is going to be, ready, willing, and able to codify that.
Sir, you served this nation with honor in the Air Force, I believe, and so you have had many conversations about military readiness. We are seeing the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, that speech that he gave a few days ago, just breaking it down to no nonsense, just military preparedness, preparing for the next war. And we've now seen the president and his posture on what our conflict with the cartels looks like. Is our military now prepared to take that head on as though it were a war? Because it pretty much is.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack there, too. I mean, first of all, a lot of that speech about having our military ready to fight wars and win wars. I mean, really, a lot of that messaging I thought was right on point. And I'll tell you, a lot of the folks that I've served with were happy to hear that. Let's make sure that we are building the planet's strongest fighting force. And again, not to go to war, but to make sure other people are afraid to go to war with us. In terms of the cartel wars, I mean, this is a big issue. It's a big issue across this country. A lot of people think that this is a southern state, border state issue, but we have the same problem in Montana. We have cartels that are operating in and around Montana that are causing trouble. They're running law enforcement ragged, and this really is a war. And we need to make sure that we're protecting the American people. That's one of the fundamental charters of having a government, is making sure that you're protecting the citizens, national defense. And this is a national defense issue because we are at war with these people, and this is not just random interactions. These are dangerous criminals that are creating violence, that are threatening people on the streets of the U.S. and the streets of Montana. We need to make sure that we take this seriously, and I'm really glad that this administration is taking it seriously and taking action, because people need to feel safe in their own homes. And now we've got an administration that cares about law and order, cares about national security, cares about safety, and is actually doing something about it.
Yeah, the results are measurable. You can really see it. So I want to turn to another form of warfare, lawfare. We saw the weaponization of the government for about 10 years. We had a story a couple of weeks ago confirming that scores of FBI agents told the FBI back in 21 they believed that the agency had become biased under the James Comey, Chris Wray era of the FBI. James Comey then gets indicted a couple of days after that story for lying to Congress. First time one of the top two law enforcement officials in this country had been indicted in a half century. Last time was Watergate, John Mitchell. Your thoughts on what message the Comey indictment says and where the weaponization unraveling goes next?
Well, here's the thing, is we need confidence in the system, and we need to know those folks in the FBI and these agencies and law enforcement are following the law and not political agendas. And if the grand jury had enough evidence to indict, then absolutely this should be, we should go down this path and see where this leads. And I'm just happy because I think people are, they're distrusting. And we can't bring trust to the people if we don't start bringing this to the forefront. So I'm really happy about that. And I'm just going to tell you, I've been very pleased with Director Patel and what's going on with the FBI right now. He's actually, opened a new office here in Billings, Montana to deal with a lot of the issues that we have here. And he's taken the job seriously. In terms of the indictments, like I said, if a grand jury has the evidence that they think to indict, then we need to go down that path and see where it leads us, because we need to make sure that the American people have faith in the institutions of this nation, especially, institutions such as the FBI.
Yeah.
Congressman, before we let you go, farms across this country, even there in Montana, have been crushed for years. Whether it is regulatory, whether it's the taxes, they have not been able to function and flourish the way that we would like them to, so that they can feed America. And the Trump administration is set to offer them some major relief next week. What do you think is most important for these folks to hear, so that they can feel settled and feel like they can actually thrive again?
I understand a lot of our farmers and ranchers are suffering right now. They're concerned, especially in Montana. Our grain producers are very concerned. There's a lot of grain, on the ground. We're trying to figure out, how to survive. But I'm just going to put this in a really simple format. the agricultural sector is incredibly important to my district, incredible to the economy of my district. It's incredibly important to the economy of my state, but it's above that. This is a national security issue. Throughout the history of humanity, if you want to bring a country down, you make it so it can't feed itself. And we need to make sure that our farmers and ranchers are being taken care of. And we need to make sure, I know a lot of the stuff that they were concerned about, we got into the one big beautiful bill, but that's only part of it. We need to make sure that we get a new farm bill in there, that we've got all the things that they need, from crop insurance to everything that's in there. We need to get a long-term reinstatement of that, and that's very important to them. But the bottom line is, this is not just about a local economy of a rural state. This is about national security. And I'm happy that the president is taking this seriously, because we need absolutely to make sure that our farmers and ranchers continue to do what they do best and feed this nation.
Yeah, and feeding the world. They're so good at it. It's such an amazing industry, the envy of the world. Congressman, such a great honor to have you on the show. We always thank you for your great service and your continued service in Congress. Good to have you on today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. You have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you very much. All right, folks, after the break, we'll have another great Congress person here on to talk about the latest shutdown. Iowa Congresswoman Meredith Miller-Meek. She always brings a lot of interesting issues to the forefront. We'll have her next one after these messages. Hey folks, I've got an important message for you about high blood pressure. It's one of the highest risk factors for mortality. Nearly 1 in 2 adults have high blood pressure, meaning there's about a 50-50 chance you could be affected. Getting help and taking control of your blood pressure is crucial for your health and longevity. And one way to do that is by using 120 Life. And 120 Life is not just to help manage high blood pressure. It also can be beneficial for those with diabetes, because managing high blood pressure can help with diabetes, making 120 Life a valuable tool for overall wellness. 120 Life is trusted by healthcare professionals, with over 1,000 doctors recommending it to help manage your blood pressure naturally. For a limited time, try 120 Life and save 20% off. Just use the code JTN at checkout at 120life.com. 120 Life offers a risk-free trial with a full refund. If you don't see lower numbers in 2 weeks, go to 120life.com and use the code JTN to save 20%.